When is less more in voiceovers? I'll explain and talk about that next on this week's Dewey's Directive. Hey, Bill DeWeese here. How are you doing? Just a couple of quick notes. First of all, I want to thank everybody who registered for my voiceover narration success workshop coming up in September. It is sold out, so looking forward to that. Also, wanted to make mention, in case you're not aware, that I am now creating a weekly podcast. It's also available here on YouTube. Typically gets published on Monday morning, but you can check out the podcast and subscribe through voweeklypodcast.com. And if you could, and here's my favor I have to ask of you, if you could go on iTunes and give a review of the podcast through iTunes, that would be really helpful, because the more reviews that I get on the podcast, the more people, the higher visibility it receives. So we'll be able to share that information with more people. And really, the podcast itself, it differs from the Dewey's Directive, which you're watching now, in that it's a breakdown and summary of my week. So you get to see the specifics of how much money was made, which is helpful. But what's more helpful than that is you get to see what those projects look like, what each day looked like, what the struggles were, what the lessons learned were. So it's really an inside view of the operation of the business. So if you could do that, I would greatly appreciate it. So let's talk about when is less more in voiceovers. I was recently, sometimes it's funny because sometimes the most important lessons are right in front of us and we don't always see them. And I guess that's part of our human nature. We just sometimes don't see the obvious. And one of my greatest strengths, I think, is also one of my greatest weaknesses, and it often works that way. And that is, I tend to be an all or nothing guy. And this has become very evident as I'm getting a little bit older. And I still have a desire to run. And I've run quite a bit over the years. I've run and completed the Chicago Marathon a couple of times, but that was like 20 years ago. And I'm like well into my 50s at this point. And so my goal for the past 4 or 5 years or so has been to run another marathon. And so I've been going out and running, and there's always something that's happened. Physically, I just haven't been able to get to that point. Maybe I'll get up to 12, 14, a 16-mile run, but never able to quite make it to that 26-mile run yet. And then what happens is that the fall comes, it gets cold here in the Chicago area, I quit running and I start eating over the holidays, and then I have to start all over again the next spring. Well, long story short, recently, I've been going back out to try to get in shape again, to try to lose the extra weight, get my legs strong, get my heart back to where it needs to be so I can run another marathon. And being the all-or-nothing guy that I am, I have a hard time starting out slow. I want to attack and kill it. And, I remember, a couple years ago being able to go out and do a 16-mile run. Last year, I was able to work back up to an 8-mile run. This year, I can barely make it a mile without feeling like I'm going to keel over. But yet that doesn't stop me from going out and pushing myself to do 4, 5, 6 mile, walks and runs, hikes, thinking that I can just get in shape faster than I'm capable of. The truth is, you've got to know yourself and where you're at and what you can and what you can't do. The fact is, at this point, at this condition that I'm in, at the age that I'm in, I have to start off slow and ramp up. So the other day, this past Sunday, I made a decision and said, you know what? I'm going to take it nice and easy. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon, literally. Let's just gradually work my way back up. So I did a sensible thing. I went out and I said, I'm going to do a 2-mile run today. Well, I actually made it 1.5 miles, and then I had to walk the last half mile. But what happened after that was incredible. Not that I was transformed and now ready to run a marathon, but mentally, I actually accomplished something. And I felt pretty darn good about it. And now I'm motivated actually, and today, and what I'm doing is like every other day, I'm going to go out and try to run 2 miles until that becomes comfortable, and then I'll work up from there. But here in about a half hour or an hour or so, I'm going to go out and I'm going to run another 2 miles. And every other day, I'm going to do that until I've built up strength and conditioning so that I can build on that and keep going. My point is this. It's so easy. If you're an all or nothing person like me, if your flame will burn bright for a short amount of time and then burn out, you got to be very careful. You've got to pace yourself and treat this like a marathon. And it does require a lot of work. So I'm not saying to just take it easy and things will automatically happen. I'm not saying that at all. It takes a lot of work. It takes consistent work. But it doesn't mean you have to go out and conquer the world the first day. As a matter of fact, You can't conquer the world the first day. You've got to allow things to happen and unfold. Just because you contact a production company, just because you contact an agent, just because you submit auditions, doesn't mean that things will magically happen overnight. These things take a while to unfold, to gain the awareness, to gain the trust of people, to develop the skills that are needed. So my advice for you on this week's DeWeese Directive is set a pace that you can sustain. If you're going out and you're auditioning, calling, emailing, whatever, knocking on doors, and it's like, oh my gosh, I've been doing this for 2 weeks and I'm exhausted. I don't know how long I can do this. Take a breath and just chill. Just set a pace that you can sustain. Make a couple of contacts today. Tomorrow, make a few more contacts. Knock out a couple of auditions today. Do a few more tomorrow. Set a daily and a weekly goal that at the end of the week, you feel like you've accomplished something, but you realize that you didn't have to conquer the world. And what you'll find is that over time, you will begin to gain some momentum, just like I'm looking forward to doing in my running. And believe me, I would love to do nothing more than go out today and run 10 miles, but frankly, it's not going to happen. And if I try to push it, I'm only going to get frustrated and I'm going to hurt myself. Don't hurt yourself. Don't get frustrated. When I say hurt yourself, I mean mentally, psychologically, emotionally. Don't defeat yourself. Give yourself some small victories. Build your self-confidence and then build your business momentum. And that way you will achieve success. Maybe not as quickly as you would like to, but you will get there. I just want to encourage you to set a pace that you can sustain. That's okay. It's a good thing, as a matter of fact. Hey, thanks for stopping by and checking out this DeWeese Directive. If you liked it, if you find it helpful, if you would like it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and share this channel with your friends so that they too can get information that will help to empower them, encourage them, inspire them to be successful in their voiceover business. Thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you again real soon.